Good
evening,
everybody.
Hello.
Evening.
How is everyone?
How are you?
I'm all right,
Not
thank
too
you. Not bad.
I feel like it's been
Just
ages
got
since
myself
I've been-
some fancy purple lights behind me. So
I was going to say that's a
Very
flash setup
fancy.
you've got going there. Very ambiance.
mm.
I'm
How are you,
facing a
Liz?
different angle because my flat's a mess. So
As I
facing
say,
the
you've
wall.
got a different background to usual.
Yeah. Flat's a mess, so you got a wall, I'm afraid.
That's all good.
Half expecting the cat to walk past in a minute.
No, she's quite happy over there on her own. Got her back to me. Absolutely hates me, so she can stay there until she wants to leave. Typical. Anyway, welcome everyone.
What's the plan? Yeah, what's the plan for this month then?
We have chats about marketing and the what's going on in Alia. New updates from Alia. Always good to see them progressing and offering new ventures. So
sounds good. I'm looking forward to the marketing as well, because I do quite a lot of like my day job. So I imagine I'm going to have loads of questions at the end of this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite
Poor
a deep dive into it.
Yeah. Shall we start with the lightning talk?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to introduce Ian Crichton?
Hello, Ian.
Good evening, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, good evening. Nice to be here. Would you like me to tell you a story?
Go on. We're here for
stories. Okay. Yeah, it's good to be here. Just as a bit of background, personally, I've been a local to the Peterborough area pretty much all my working life, and I'd recently joined the Alia team as one of their business coaches. It was an interesting journey joining the team because I was then asked about mentoring. That I'd worked on a mentoring program for Be the Business for 18 months, which was a national program. And so Ali has said it would be really good if you could actually bring a mentoring program to us as well. So Alia, I suppose, is an organization that focuses very strongly on sustainability. It's about supporting businesses, business growth. And if you said, well, what are their primary targets? It's the creation of jobs. It's the creation of business growth. And it's linking the whole thing to business sustainability as well. So in terms of a phrase, it's positive impact for people, place, and community. And that sounds a bit trite, I know, but actually it probably sums up quite well in terms of having a positive impact on people, which can be the employees, but it's the local people who are affected by successful businesses. It's about the place, positive impact on place, so how we affect communities, and ultimately planet, which is the bigger picture stuff, which is about sustainability for the longer term. So we have two sides to the business. One side is funded by ERDF money, and so that allows us to deliver services to the business community that they don't have to pay for, which is nice. So we can provide a free of charge business support service. And the other side to the business is very much a charity, and it's to do with the property that we have in Peterborough and Cambridge largely, that we act as landlords to support the business community. So in Peterborough, I think we have 17 tenant businesses that come under our roof. And I think in Cambridge, it's as high as about 40 businesses. And we tend to focus on businesses that have this sustainability angle to what they're doing. And I've got to say, sometimes we come across businesses which are really quite fascinating in terms of what they do. You know, we've just been working with a business today, and they are making building materials out of waste food. which is really quite interesting. So they're making compressed boards. So instead of chipboard, you've got it could actually be chips board, but but actually no.
I think you've just invented a new product, haven't you?
It sounds quite tasty, actually. If you're hungry, you eat your own house. And another business that we're just starting to talk to, they're creating a protein supply for animal foods from flies, but the flies eat the waste food, so it's taking waste food away from landfill and converting it to protein, so that the rainforests don't need to be chopped down to grow soya. So it's really all very, very fascinating, I've got to say. And today we're talking to a business that's created a digital program to help children understand things which are way beyond me, but UX systems and programs. But they're linking it into a global system, so that actually somebody in this, some youngsters in this country can connect with youngsters in Japan or anywhere in the world to develop new business concepts and new ideas. So really quite fascinating in terms of the businesses we work with. The programs that we run are fairly intense. They tend to be weekly workshops. And we start off at a thing called ideation and validation. And really this is about somebody's got a business idea. Let's help them to sense check it and see whether we can actually convert it into a working business for them. So it's sometimes the best thing is to say no. That's really daft. It's not going to work. But ideally, we want to sort of take somebody's concept and help them to put it into action and create a new business.
So that's just
like Dragon's Den.
Sorry?
Yeah.
You're a bit like Dragon's Den.
Yeah, except we don't have the money.
So is that just to kind of see if the business is feasible before they can't invest in? Okay.
Exactly that. You know, we actually sort of sit down with them and we work through a series of workshops, which are the basics of what a business should look like, how you assess whether the business is viable, and actually what steps you would need to take to move it from concept to reality. The follow on from that is we call it grow your business, and that's very much more about what best practice looks like in terms of running a business, and it encompasses HR, it encompasses financial management, all the usual different aspects of running a business. We're trying to support the businesses into actually making sure that they're employing best practice, so the chances of survival are improved.
That's the one we've actually just finished doing, so which I think we found really helpful.
Good. Okay. So, preaching to the converted here. So that's I should have let you do this. And then we have.
I'll give you a testimonial.
Perfect. I love that. I love testimonials. And then we sort of move on to more specific impact accelerator, which is for those businesses that are, like the flies into protein type business, how we can help them to actually really make that business take off, because it's such a great idea and it's got such a positive impact on the planet. So anything that we can do, and that involves then starting to bring in specialists, say a mentor that can work with them to actually support them and encourage them to help them to sort of have this sort of rapid growth that we're looking for. And we have another program called Amplify, which is very much about taking the founder or the senior person in the business and giving them some additional high-level support. And again, often tapping into a pool of mentors who are very experienced business people, and again, helping to drive the agenda, which, one person we were talking today, they're just in the early stages of recruiting 20 new staff. And you think, wow, that's brilliant. That's real positive impact. And so that's what we do. We just we spend our time sharing pearls of wisdom, and it's really about not how much we know, but who we know, who's got the information that's going to make the difference. And particularly on the mentoring side, we've got a fairly large pool of pretty senior people who are experienced in all walks of life, and it's about what does the mentee need to go to the next level, and who's the best mentor to help them to get to that point. So there we go. So that's Alia, and it's a great organisation to work with. Sorry.
It's definitely good to have in Peterborough, definitely, because when I first started out, it was just a thing called Business Link, and it was a case of go and get a bank account, bye, off you go, good luck. And that was it.
Well, I was hoping that you were going to say you had a better experience with Business Link, because I was actually involved in the original bid to get Business Link in Cambridgeshire.
Wow. Yeah, no, it wasn't.
So, oh dear.
I don't think they kind of knew much about. I think Peterborough's seen a growth in people going self-employed, and at the time, I think Peterborough was still very early on with newbie startups.
Yeah,
maybe you were just a special case, Andy.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I think we were just probably behind like the university towns that have and cities that have them sort of starters. So maybe it was just sort of unknown at the time. But
well, I'd like to think we're the next level up. Just to give you some sort of numbers, Ali has been operating for about 21 years now, and in that time we've helped over 2,000 businesses to move forward, and those businesses in turn have reported the creation of over 5,000 jobs, and we've helped these businesses to raise somewhere in the region of £90 million of investment. So we do help businesses to prepare for pitching for investment, which is quite a key element of obviously how a business can grow. So we have sessions where we bring in almost pseudo investors, although some of them are real investors, so that our founders of the businesses that we're working with can actually practice pitching for investment for the future. But over the years, that's generated something like £90 million worth of investment for them. So, like to think that we're not doing a bad job. We could always do better, obviously, but we've created a few jobs, and we've.
Is that combined between Peterborough and Cambridge?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's across. That's across the whole organisation. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. So, if we've got people watching right now, what can they do with their idea? What's the first thing they should do?
Well,
I think say hello.
Yeah, I think so. One thing probably ought to mention about Peterborough, and you're probably aware of it, and we have a really good innovation lab, which has got sort of 3D printing technology, CAD/CAM technology, and it's somebody where if they've got a business idea and they need a product testing, we can actually help them to produce the initial prototypes, so that they can actually see whether their idea works in reality. So the Innovation Lab is quite a good place to come in and have that sort of conversation and see what's possible or what's not possible. But I suppose yes, the simple thing is just pick up the phone to Alia, and there's myself, there's Claire Simsek who works with me, but there's a team of us basically who can sort of give the advice and tell them when the next program is due to run and which program would be most suitable for their needs, and we could just pick them up and sort of help them from then onwards. So just get in touch, send an email, go to the website, send an email, and we'll reach out and have that conversation, and we'll identify at what stage they're at and which particular program might be most suitable for them.
And it doesn't cost them anything to join the.
It cost them a penny, which their cost is their commitment really, because we want people who are prepared to engage and make a difference. So if people just come along and say, well, I'll have a look and see, and then do nothing about it, it's like membership to any organisation. If you don't engage, you don't get any value from your membership. We're prepared to put in a lot of hours and a lot of support and connect up with some really useful connections. And we love helping people who want to actually make a difference. If somebody comes along and really doesn't want to do anything, doesn't turn up for the workshops, and they do get homework occasionally, and we like to see what they're producing. So their commitment is not financial; it is about their personal sort of engagement with the program. But yeah, it's good values you're going to get anywhere at the moment.
Excellent. Good to see that they're helping out then, and hopefully Peter has got a few more innovative ideas. Maybe we might see someone on Dragon's Den eventually from it.
Yeah, well, we've just started the new sort of startup program, and we've got 18 businesses who are ideation validation who've come to us with ideas. So we've got 18 new people that we're just starting to work with.
Wow.
We've got the Grow Your Business program that's currently running, has got 17 businesses on that we're working with. And there's just some really interesting different businesses. So it's, from our point of view, it's good fun.
It's the pandemic hasn't kind of affected the take up then. It's
not affected. No, it's not affected the take up. We were just starting to get back to having face-to-face meetings, or what somebody described to me was, it's really nice to have another 3D meeting. 3D meeting. That's
a new thing now, yeah.
Yeah, so we are starting. I would say most of the workshops are delivered on Zoom or whatever, Teams. But we are just starting to pull 1 or 2 meetings together where we're getting people together, because I think peer support, where business leaders getting together, talking about their ideas, I think works really well. I think people get a lot more from it when they can talk to other business people. They're not in competition, but they're sharing ideas. So
yeah, exactly. Learning from each other as you go, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
So there we go. So that's Alia, not quite a nutshell, but it's what we do. And anybody, we got a really nice cafe in Peterborough. In fact, we got a cafe in Cambridge as well. But if anybody wants to come down, we can have a coffee and we can show you around the place. And certainly, we can sort of put together an information pack for your members if you want, so that they can see what's available to them.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that.
That'd be popular.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I'm sure we've got someone that sits at home with an idea that doesn't know where to take it. So we'll certainly send them your way.
It's having that avenue for that initial conversation, someone that you can just bounce ideas off.
Yeah,
and, just see if it's viable, really.
I think that's the big thing. Is having somebody independent that you can just talk to. There's no stupid ideas. It's just actually doing a sense check and saying, well, will that work? Has somebody else already done it, or can we point them in a way that can actually refine what they're thinking and convert it into what is potentially a good business? So, we're happy for them to come down. If somebody's got an idea, we're happy for them just to come down and say, can I have a chat with you about this idea I've got? And if we think, actually, that might work, we'll tell them when the next program is due to start, and we'll invite them to sign up for it. Take it from there.
All nice and simple. That's how we like it.
I'm a simple person.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. If you need help, ask for it.
Yep.
No hoops to jump through, and away you go. Brilliant. Well, thank you for Ian. We'll certainly send people your way. If people got questions for Ian, do post them in the comment box, which you should see on the right of your social tab, I believe. And then we'll put them to Ian at the end when we do a Q&A.
We have just had a comment from Richard Andy about reminding people about the jelly on Friday.
Oh, yes. Friday at Alia is the Peterborough jelly. Is it limited numbers again, or is it?
It is, yeah. There's going to be, I think, between 8 and 10 people, and it's going to be in the boardroom, as far as I know. So it's going to be limited numbers again. So it's all still sort of socially distanced, and kind of that getting people back into co-working again and kind of feeling like still quite safe, and
Yeah, so if you're a bit bored of working from home, pop in on Friday to Alia and sit amongst fellow home workers and have a chat. It's not really a networking event, is it? It's really just
bring your laptop and bring your work
meet and greet and work in a nice environment. So that's
in 3D environment.
3D
environment. Absolutely. And that's
should be
4D,
shouldn't it?
Is there any charge for jelly?
No, it's completely free, and there's also free coffee and teas and things throughout the day. It's from 10 o'clock.
Fantastic.
What more could you want?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. Thanks again.
No problem.
Thank you, Ian.
If I can hang around and listen to...
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, by all means. We might
the latest secrets
at the end, so we'll see how we go.
Okay,
Brilliant.
no problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
There we go. And that's good of Adia to keep us on board with keeping people inspired to start new stuff.
Yeah, it's good to know what they're up to, actually, because it's been, for me, it's been a long time since I've been in there, and things have all changed since, since the pandemic and getting things started up again. And
it's starting to feel a bit weird when you start going back into places, but you do get used to it after a while, get back to a normal kind of routine.
I wonder if there's been like an uptake in people starting their own businesses during the pandemic, that people reevaluate what they're doing and make ideas.
I would imagine so. I think a lot of people have either been, I don't want to say laid off, but a lot of people might have done, or been furloughed or whatever, and found a passion or a hobby or something instead, and then started their own business.
A bit more planning time. Let's hope so.
Yeah, well, it's good that there's that support there for them.
Definitely. Right, shall we hand over to Des Calton next, who will enlighten us. Hello, Des. Welcome aboard the DPiP ship. Nice to have you along.
It's a nice product placement there on the t-shirt.
Yeah. Yes. Why not?
Not planned, but yeah.
Why not? So we'll hand over to you, Des, to give us the yin and the yang of marketing and your inside hints and tips for us all in the marketing realms. Okay, and if we've got any questions, we'll fire them at the end, and hopefully you'll be able to answer them. And we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no pressure.
Excellent.
No pressure. I'll hand you over to Des now.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and share some slides. Hopefully that all works correctly. Let's just see if that's going to come up now. I think I need to do my share screen again. Oh, no, okay, we are sharing. Okay, we are on. Jolly good. Just going to check if that's going to come across. Okay, yeah, so excellent. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a delay on the screen. I was checking it out on. Sorry about that. So, my name is Des Calton. I'm the Managing Director of Optimized. We're a Google Premier Partner agency. We're also a preferred marketing partner with Facebook. We operate across numerous platforms in search, display, video, audio. We do on Spotify, social media, app advertising, various different platforms, handle a multi-million-pound a year budget. We aim to offer people targeted advertising wherever your online audience may be. If anyone wants to scan the code to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. Be great to connect with anybody who's been on this evening. And the little line there is a little bit cheesy, but it's a little expression I have. Some you win, some you learn. It's really, really applicable in what we do with online marketing, because we do test things, we try things. Not everything works, but then when you analyze the data, and look at the results, and apply that learning when you go to the next attempt, you don't lose, you learn from it, basically. So it does sound a little bit cheesy, but it is very apt, I do believe. To just give you a bit of a background about myself and about the company and the group that I work for, we're part of something called the Maze Group, which was established in 2009. We are located in Peterborough. We opened up an office about a week before lockdown last year, which wasn't the best timing, but we're back in Peterborough now. We also have a team down in London, and where the company began over in Kings Lynn. And across the group, offering a wide array of digital marketing services across the group. So the yin and yang of marketing, what it's about is we all kind of get bombarded with all kinds of messaging, opinions, articles, experts, and facts. And a lot of the time, these can contradict each other. So I think the idea behind this chat this evening was to really try and look at both sides of the coin, dig a little bit deeper, because again, slogans and things like that can all sound very clever and smart on the face of it, but to dig a little bit deeper and find out what some of these things actually mean, and also how a business can benefit from putting some of these into practice with a really sort of balanced view. And also wanted to just take a short while to have a look at some kind of brands and businesses that break the rules and break that mold and succeed, and also have a look at some of those ones that along the way have kind of fallen by the wayside. So the first one, an expression that probably quite a few people have heard if they're anything to do with social media, Mark Zuckerberg's famous "move fast and break things" quote. And the point of that being, it was aimed at speeding up processes and approvals in senior management, things that bigger businesses tend to move slower, like bigger ships, they move slower. This approach was kind of like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, just get it out there and things like that. But this does then go very much against the sort of more methodical split testing or A/B testing with micro changes, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment for anyone who's not sure what that means. But it's a methodical test and analyze approach. If you work in a heavily regulated industry, for example, going and breaking something, as the quote goes, could be could have huge consequences. If you're a startup and you're trying to get out there and look for investment, again, getting some negative press and something going wrong could have, again, some big issues for that business and could threaten their very existence. So when we say move fast and break things and A/B test, A/B testing is the practice of making small purposeful changes to test the impact of these things. So it could be along the lines of, for instance, on your if you've got an advert that's running on Facebook where you change the headline, you use a different image. It could be on your website when people land that you make sure a call to action button has got contrasting colors so it stands out. It could be using an image of your product in use, or it could be an image of a person kind of making eye contact over the screen, or it could be not using an image at all and having a moving graphic or an illustration. It can also be things like testing, A/B testing parts of a contact form or a quote form. If you put more form fields in, does it make less people fill it out? But there is a balance between making those forms a bit too easy and making them just hard enough that the people that fill them out genuinely are filling them out to, get the information, get a quote, download that ebook or whatever it may be that they're filling the form in for. So A/B testing is a great way to test theories. What if we try this with this? It can remove people's kind of bias, and it can also remove any guesswork when you're running an ad campaign online. So again, move fast and break things, or are we going to do things in a kind of a small micro way? So what we're then going to try and do is look at a balanced approach. So you may see a little bit of a theme from these slides when we get onto the balanced view. The balanced approach here really is you have to assess what the impact of changes in certain areas may be. Then you can put necessary measures into place when you find things that might be a bit too risky to just go and break, or you can put something a little bit more relaxed in place when it is a less of a risky kind of area. You can put more rigid structures and processes in where they're needed, but just assess them to make sure they're as streamlined as they can possibly be. And again, those more relaxed processes in those areas that they're just not gonna be as big of an issue for you. It's also really important to kind of then continue to reassess these, because as a business develops and grows, depending what stage a business is at, some of these things may change. So reassess and then do implement any changes where they become apparent, where they can be put into place. And then also what you want to do with A/B testing. So it's in digital marketing particularly, you get told a lot of the time to always be testing. It's really important though to ensure that if you do test things, have a real purpose. You're not just doing them for the sake of it to tick a box. Test a theory of what if we're running an ad on YouTube, do we bring in lots of more of a text for people that might not have sound on? Do we make sure that there is a call to action in that video? Does the video focus on the product? Does the video focus on people and solving people's problems, things like that? So it's really important to have a purpose about why you're doing A/B tests. And then also what is the very specific thing about A/B testing is don't make too many changes. Don't have two things running next to each other that are completely different, because then you don't actually know which part of the thing you've got has made that positive impact. So if you had two web pages, test changing the image, the big header image when people land. When you've run that test and found what you believe is a successful result, then run another test on the text that is included in the header, or then run a test on the different kind of message in the call to action button, for instance. Make one change and test it, because then you'll know which tests are actually having the positive or negative effects. So moving on to the next one, we've got the kind of messaging of listen to your customers. Your customers will tell you exactly what they need, versus the kind of opinion of customers do not know what they want. Now, obviously, you'd be silly not to listen to your customers. However, it is abundantly clear in certain cases that your customers won't always be able to tell you what they need. They may be able to tell you what they think they want, but not necessarily what they need. So a famous quote, apparently, or allegedly, or debatably, I'm not sure whether this is actually genuine or not, but it's actually a quote that you will hear quite a lot. Whether it's made by Henry Ford is debatable. But if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. So whilst it is debatable whether Henry Ford actually ever said this, it does highlight the importance of if you're going to talk to your customers, it's really important how you phrase the things that you ask them. So, for instance, the question of what problems do you have may be more relevant than what do you need, because what do you need in this scenario would have been faster horses, whereas if you asked what problem do you face, it might have been something more along the lines of getting from one place to another takes too long, which obviously then gives you a very different product at the end. Instead of the car, faster horses, and vice versa. And then another sort of famous saying from Steve Jobs of Apple, obviously, he's quoted many times as saying, "Customers, they don't know what they want. It's our job to work that out." And it was really kind of made very clear by Apple in the early days. They didn't do market research. They kind of created products themselves that they believed fitted an area, but they didn't actually do market research themselves. So, but again, when we look at this as more of a balanced view, it is important, of course, to do your research. As already mentioned, if you're going to ask questions or put a survey together to ask your customers, think really carefully about how you phrase questions, because as we highlighted, it can be it can be minor points can make a big difference to the sorts of responses you're going to get and how valuable those responses are going to be. When you do then ask those questions, your customers can reveal whether it is particularly issues that they may have, pain points, and then it's up to you to create or mold your service or your product to make sure that it solves the problem that your potential customers may have, because this is what product's about at the end of the day. So this is the next one. It's another, again, it's another one which is banded around particularly a lot, is always innovate, always be doing something different, always stand out, versus the very sort of like reliable follow best practices expression. And it's another kind of debatable quote in what it actually means in the modern day, but this is one that is quoted quite a lot, about how the electric light did not come from continuously like making small adjustments and improvements to candles. This one obviously was a big innovation, totally different. But again, if we ask the customer, what do they want? Do they want candles that burn brighter, or do they need more light? Then again, we get a very different idea of a product that comes and answers their pain point, their issue, their problem. So the point is here, big innovations don't come from making small improvements. However, candles will have been improved, I'm sure, over many centuries and gotten better and better and better, just as light bulbs have had gradual improvements and allegedly gotten better and better and better, not the ones that take so long to lighten up so much though. It's one of these ones where it is a balance between making those improvements to your service. Are there things about your product or your service that you can improve on, but also then keeping an eye out about innovations and things that may come along. We also hear expressions on the flip side: don't try and reinvent the wheel, and if it isn't broken, then don't fix it, which to an extent can be correct. But on the next screen, we'll kind of like go through a few different things that some of these people, it wasn't broken and they didn't fix it and now they're gone. Some of these other people we're seeing totally innovated and went into industries when there wasn't even much of a need. So for instance, if we think about the traditional cafe, where you used to be able to go and get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, was there anything wrong with that? Well, now we have the likes of Costa Coffee, Starbucks, Nero, and a whole host of other kind of coffee shops that charge a lot more money. In a lot of the times you get it in a plastic cup. But again, it's now created a God knows, multi-billion industry in that space. Again, there was nothing wrong with cafes. Cafes were great. You have a big pot of tea, whatever you wanted. But the coffee shop is now the king. On the bottom row, we have Blockbuster Video, totally dominant in their area. They were everywhere. They were all over the place, but they just did not adapt, and they couldn't see the future of digital media. It was always, it's an event to go to the video shop, and no one's ever going to want to just do that at home. And also, to be fair, when they would saying these kind of things, the technology wasn't there. But the likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, more recently Disney Plus, etc., and again a whole host of digital channels and digital services has now meant, you know, Blockbuster Video is a thing of the past. The kind of the traditional taxi, who needs an app to get a taxi? It was so, you know, you've got the taxi numbers saved in your phone, you've got, you know, the taxi numbers in the book by the phone at home. But again, totally revolutionized something that at the time probably not many people thought needed to be revolutionized, the likes of Uber, Lyft, and again, so many more kind of ride hailing apps. And another one is like your local takeaway. Again, who needs an app for that? You know, everyone orders the same thing from their local takeaway all the time. Everyone's got a drawer full of those menus. But, you know, the explosion, and even more so over the past 18 months, of the likes of Just Eat, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, etc., is absolutely huge. And then potentially, could the next thing to go the way of Blockbuster Video be the high street bank? It's something that's been around forever. It's something that a lot of people thought might have been the end of it when they started making ATM machines. But we have the likes of Monzo, Starling Bank, and a multitude of fintech businesses that don't have that big brick and mortar presence, and all the things that go along with it. So it'll be interesting to see how those traditional high street banks keep adapting, and do they innovate, or do they keep following the best practice? So again, if we look at the balanced view, when we're talking about this, always innovate or follow best practices, you know, if you're awesome at what you do, you know, if you've got an awesome product, you've got an awesome service, you know, stay awesome, you know, don't change it, but do keep an open mind, you know, and be on the lookout for threats or opportunities. You know, don't just you know, don't be stubborn, you know, stay strong to those core beliefs, and that belief in your business, in your product or in your service. But you know, do be aware, you know, don't be in denial like a Blockbuster Video, for example. And then finally, one thing, I went on a course last year, and something that one of the biggest things I took away from it was a really interesting concept. And this was something called the 6 thinking hats technique. So it's just one little tip from me at the end to try. And the idea about the 6 thinking hats technique can give you a really insightful kind of 360 view of your business, your product, your service. And the idea is 6 people. You don't have to wear hats, but it makes it a bit more fun if you do. Everyone wears a different colored hat. And in the example that I'm giving here today, the blue hat is all about process. This person comes and just thinks about processes, organization, planning, and comes at it from an organizational perspective. Somebody wears a white hat and comes at it from a factual point of view, you know, just information, data. What do we know? What has happened in the past? The red hat is all more about emotion and feelings. You know, how does a product or service make customers feel? You know, what are the passions? What are the kind of gripes from feelings and emotion? The green hat is all about creativity, coming at things with a totally open mind of overcoming every possible challenge. You know, ideas, alternatives. What's you know, removing boundaries. The yellow hat is just all totally positive. It's all about the benefits. It's only the plus points. You only come at it from a positive perspective. And then the black hat is all about cautions. Any threats, any difficulties, any dangers, you know, anything like that. And when you do that, you can get a really good overall kind of perspective of your business, your product, your service, and yeah, you know, from all of the things that you get from all of those different perspectives, you can then put things into place, processes, plans, ideas for the future, etc., to kind of address all of those things from a 360 view. So really interesting thing. If you search online for 6 thinking hats technique, there's a ton of information online all about that. So So yeah, that's all from me on this subject. The sort of conclusion being, as in all walks of life, balance is the most important thing. It's not about you must do this, you must do that. It's always about taking that balanced approach and that balanced view. Again, if you want to give the QR code a scan and connect with me on LinkedIn, be more than happy to do that, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Des. We've had a few questions come in already. Which should we start with?
You say a few. There's quite a few.
Yeah,
actually.
I'm just wondering if Dan's sat in the background waiting to put eyes in it. I know it's not a question. Scott kind of being very topical.
We did say Zuckerberg did say that, didn't he? Was it Zuckerberg that said move fast? Did you say
break things? Yeah,
move fast and break things. Yeah.
He clearly broke Facebook the other day and everything else that went with it. So he's really still living by the standards, isn't he?
Ironically, most of the advertising spends on that day still didn't change, even though it was down for about a third of a day, which is an interesting thing. We're looking into that at the moment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Funny.
So
your question, Geoffrey.
Yeah, let's start with my question, so I can even read it out. So, are there any effective methods for A/B testing when you might have the traffic to kind of measure it against?
There's a couple of different ways you could approach that. I suppose the first one would be to look at competitors, and people who do have budgets and put things into place. You can go and, I suppose the best way to put it is draw inspiration from people who have gone and invested money. If you're an e-commerce store, go and look at Amazon, go and look at eBay, go and look at Etsy, go and look at the big ones that do test these kinds of things. If you want to be a bit more specific with your own specific business, the most important thing, I think, if you are a bit limited on resources or data, is to focus on a very small bit. The expression being go deep rather than go wide. So if you take one popular blog post or something and look at your Google Analytics account to see how people have engaged, or if you put some kind of heat mapping tool onto your website, and try and look at a very narrow thing, but look at that deeper, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is that your question, Liz? What do you think the next big innovation in marketing will be?
Just to put you on the spot there.
Well, yeah, it's a tricky one, because we're kind of living through, certainly in the last kind of 2 to 3 years, a huge amount of change in all the platforms that we work on, with the push towards artificial intelligence. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's the next one, it's the kind of one we're in right now.
Yeah.
But it's a really tricky one, because we're looking at certain things and finding artificial intelligence is helping in certain areas, but it's also serving said platform quite a lot in other areas as well. So most of the work we do is on Google Ads. Probably about 80% of the work and budget we take care of is on Google Ads. And Google have been pushing automation for a good 3 years now at least. And we've only really started adopting it a bit more in the last kind of 12, 16 months, because from testing, we've now started to be able to adapt certain things to the way that works best for what we're looking to do for our clients. So, but yeah, AI, automation, it's coming into everything. And it's about just looking, the devil's always in the detail. So looking at the detail of what that AI is and making sure that it serves your purpose, rather than the purpose of the platform that's charging you the money for said AI. So
when you say AI, do you mean kind of where it automatically places your ads with kind of users that it thinks are looking for that product? Like when on Instagram, where if I've searched for one pizza oven, suddenly my whole feed is filled with pizza ovens, which I don't mind, because I like pizza oven.
It's that's not actually AI per se. I mean, you can set things up to do that. That's something that's been around for quite a while. Where for instance, we do advertising through Facebook that will appear on Instagram as well. And you target people based on their interests and their behaviors. And there's a big thing that's been around for quite a while, which is called about audience data. So most people are worried that Google give their phone numbers or email addresses out to people. None of the platforms kind of do that. They allow advertisers like ourselves to say, we want to reach people who've shown an interest in pizza ovens with our advert about pizza ovens. So they then take your advert, connect it through their kind of algorithms and things in the background, and then show that advert. I'm sure you probably found as well, I don't know if you actually ended up buying your pizza oven, but I'm sure you found even if you did buy a pizza oven, you still kept getting served pizza oven adverts.
I get mattress ones all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's unavoidable for other companies to be doing that for a certain amount of time. But if it's the same company, that's pretty inexcusable, because there are ways, once people have gone through the buying process, to stop showing people those ads. It'd make much more sense if the pizza oven people that also then sold, I don't know, a bread maker or supplies for said pizza oven to show you ads for that, which is the way to do it. But yeah, that's more about some remarketing ads. AI is more about, for instance, if I have an ad for my pizza oven going on Instagram, I use 3 or 4 different images along with some different messaging in the image on the advert, and the AI is supposed to be able to find what kind of image along with what kind of text would suit you based on your behaviors and things better than the other ones in the ad set. That's one example. There's tons of other ones, but it's more about really kind of machine learning. Do people respond to this kind of thing better than this kind of thing? And then gradually over time, when it starts to do its split testing, it then starts to favor the thing that it's deemed better, better results.
Wow, that's deep, isn't it? When you get the AI to do the work for you. That kind of answers Dan's question when he says, do you have any thoughts on the role of AI in content production for marketing material? This is kind of like that. There was a blog article or news article recently about robots that can write blogs for you. It's AI doing all the work for you, isn't it? Is that going to happen in the
Some of them are hilarious though, aren't they? Some of them are...
yeah, they are.
I guess they're still learning, aren't they? They're still machine learning, but will it get too much?
I think that the point being is, for instance, I mean, just very briefly to go back and then not answer that one a bit more specifically. If for instance, everyone in the space of pizza ovens did exactly the same thing and used the AI in place on every platform, in theory, all it would then would be who is the highest bidder, who gets the kind of thing. There'd be no creative element, I suppose, to be a little bit more human talking or a bit more connecting from how you use the language, etc. And we have that with paid search on Google, for instance. If we're all bidding on the same keyword, we've all got the same generated ad that is AI. All the results look the same, and that's of no interest to any advertiser to be looking the same as everybody else. But from the content point of view, interestingly, I did. There was a lifetime value thing for very cheap on an AI writing tool that I got recently, and I think what you could probably use those things for would be for ideas and help generating certain things. Perhaps if you're a small business owner who's not someone who's going to be able to put the time into creating fresh content on a website all the time, you could use one of these tools to get you started. You could then go in and make, I think, some adjustments to make it that little bit more human element. But you can, it's quite interesting. You could pick kind of tone of voice. You could pick you then put in what your kind of features and benefits are and things like that. So it's interesting. But I think the biggest thing that, again, in the industry that I work in, automation is not a new thing. It's been around for many, many years, and people worry about the threats to their jobs. Is that you use in a lot of cases the AI to do those manual labor, heavy lifting jobs, and the marketer can focus more on strategy and planning and like proper full campaigns and building detailed strategies, rather than going in and delete that keyword, or going in and just adjust, doing the more menial things. So I think that there's certainly a benefit for certain people, but there'll be no threat to people that are creative writers who write really emotive and things that connect with people. I don't think there'll be any threat from an AI on that situation in any time soon.
They're more,
in my opinion. I could be wrong.
So they're more a tool for the job to help you along, get things.
I think again, harping back to the kind of one I mentioned about the banks. When cash points come in, they say, well, what will the people? There'll be no jobs for anybody anymore inside a bank. Well, what they do inside the bank now is they talk to you more about mortgages, or talk to you about investments, or loans, or different things like that, as opposed to, there you go, there's your money that you asked for. Because now there's a machine to do that pretty simple task. But yeah, obviously it's all very interesting. There's obviously we'll only know things on the surface as well. I'm sure behind the scenes there's all kinds of things. So
do you think that the whole marketing side on social media will get saturated, like you said, that if all pizza oven companies did the same AI and they're all fighting for the top spot, does that mean that you can't take on two different pizza oven companies because you'll be using the same algorithms and pit them against each other? Will it become a point where there's nothing left more to do you think, or is it different strategies for different ones?
It's very difficult, because again, you can have to kind of like how you target audiences, how do you what like creative one side's going to come up with against the other, etc. But in theory, it then becomes like the old days of paid search, like when it first came out, it was whoever bidded highest was at the top, and that meant that if you search for a pizza oven, if I want to show you an advert for a car, I'll put my car advert up there, and what use is that? All you're going to do is show me an irrelevant ad because that person paid more, because they want everyone to know about their car. Whereas what happens now is you get rewarded for relevancy, and then your price comes down. So if that person, who's selling a pizza oven, wants to come above the guy, the guy who wants to spend £20 to put his car ad up there, you can spend £2 and appear above him because you've got more relevant ads. So you get rewarded for that relevancy. Because again, certainly from a point of view of search, they don't want to show people results that are no good, because eventually people will stop using them to search for things. But on kind of more programmatic sort of things like social media, then it definitely becomes a point where it goes back to potentially maybe the highest bidder, which isn't really ideal, because then people only ever see one pizza oven, and it's got me hungry. I'll tell you what, it's all
I know. I wonder how many pizza ovens we're going to sell tonight.
We're all going to see. We could potentially be seeing adverts for pizza ovens now. Who knows? Whether our
that's your fault, Jonathan.
It's brilliant. This is my big plan.
That's your fault. That is. So I guess another question from me. That is, sorry to keep bombarding you with them, but the whole marketing process is a long process, isn't it? It's doing your A/B testing. It's not going to be a quick job. Is there a quick job for those that want to just get up and running ASAP? They haven't got time to do so much in-depth stuff. 9 times out of 10, some of my clients, they want it all yesterday, and it's like a mad rush. Quickly do an advert, put it on social media, and they completely forget about this A/B testing and stuff. I mean, is there a long? There's obviously the long route, but is there a shorter route that people could take?
I think I mentioned a point earlier about the go deep rather than go wide approach. I think if you're we can move away from pizzas now because, like I say, I'm going to keep getting hungry. If you're let's say, for example, you're a plumber and you do plumbing work, you do emergency call outs, you do boilers, you do heating engineering, etc. If rather than trying to advertise all of them, whether it be search, social, whatever, you pick the one that you again, whether depending on the point of view of the plumber, but either the one that you can sell the easiest, kind of like with an advert, or the thing that you get the most profit and benefit from. So for instance, if we say 24-hour call out plumber, on a search campaign would be really, really relevant, but it'd be quite competitive. But the idea would be there to make sure that you really brought down the area that you target, that you made it, the language very, very relevant. You put yourself in the position of someone who needs an emergency plumber. It's an emergency, so you can make it easy for people to contact you with kind of like a tap to call thing in your ad, a tap to call thing on your mobile website, big prominent phone number, along with a little Trustpilot ratings or nice stars and things like that. So if rather than trying to do all of them, you focused on that one service, you then find that you'd be able to, if you've got a £50 or £100 budget, you'll get better results. You'll see where things are working and where things aren't working on that one service so much easier than if they were being spread across 4, 5, 6 services. So, I mean, that's one possible way. Obviously, there's all sorts of answers to that kind of question, but definitely go deep rather than go wide. I think would be the kind of overall message.
Too wide and just go targeted rather than all out there with everything.
Yeah,
I think that's people's panic. They get the idea that they're selling lots of stuff, so they're going to throw their net wide and see who takes the bait.
Yeah, and again, if you've got lots of money, then you can try that.
Yeah,
but again,
that is another, of course, another mention. If it's a startup, they haven't got a lot of money, have they? So
yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's alternative.
Yeah, it really, I mean, that's, again, it totally depends on different people. A digital platform will always tell you to spend as much as you can at the start because you'll get more data in quickly. Well, of course they're going to tell you that. And yes, in theory, you'll get lots of data in quickly, but you'll have potentially lost quite a lot of money whilst you do it. So again, balance. It's all about the balance.
Is there much danger of the social media companies giving you irrelevant data from, like, I don't know, some companies that are paid just to fill in data sheets for the sake of it and not really relevant to you? Sending people your way that just for the sake of it aren't really interested in what you're selling. How do you weed out the genuine ones?
In theory, again, I think that goes back to the A/B testing side of things, where you, for instance, if someone's going to fill in a form, rather than it just be fill your email address in to download this, it makes it really frictionless, but maybe it makes it a little bit too easy. And also, what do you know about somebody when they just put in their email address? So, for instance, you might want to test, yes, we'll see the volume of leads we get just by asking for an email, but let's ask for an email and, again, I don't know if it's our heating engineer, how soon are you planning to update your boiler, as a question with a right now in 6 months, I'm just researching. So for instance, you could run it like that, and you'd look at how many you got in on the one where it's just an email address about your top boiler guide, and then how many you get in when you make it a few more questions. But then you look at the information you get from those ones. Okay, all of these people have told me they need to update their boiler within the next 6 months. So with that email address, we can email market them. We can remarket to them on social or display with their email address and keep them aware of our offer for the next 6 months. And then you can make the calculation of, was that blanket amount that much better because you got so much more, or was it better to get less but get it more targeted and get it more relevant?
That makes sense.
But and then it's finding that balance. I'm sure you'll have done it before. You go to download a PDF and there's like 10 questions, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, and you don't do it. So it's finding that, and it can be a fine line depending on what the product, the service, the business is. But this is where the testing comes into play. Don't just go with one form and 10 form fields, because that's a bit too much of a contrast. But look at 2, look at 3, look at 4, and kind of then judge,
and then send them all out together, and then just see which ones come back the most responsive. Would that be a way
you could do that. You could do it where, again, it again on Facebook, you could have an ad that links to one of your forms, whereas the other half of the ads link to another version of your form. And you can do a similar thing on Google Ads. You can have 2 identical ads, but they just link to a different page that, again, both have a form, but just slightly different. And then you can start to see, which one's working the better. Just little things like that, and again, some people want the volume, whereas other people, again, I suppose a smaller business, they don't really need to be paying for an email system for thousands of people if only 100 of those people are really relevant. So again, it comes to budgets and scale and things.
So there's ways of tailoring it all to your budget and scale, as long as you're doing it more targeting rather than widely, I suppose. And you think of questions that are relevant for the form to narrow it down.
Yeah, I think so. And again, like we mentioned in the sort of talk as well, be very careful how some of those things are phrased. Again, if someone's just downloading, for instance, keep your house warm during the winter guide, cut your energy bill guide, things like that, you might want to just get as many in as you can and start doing more generic brand awareness if you're a bit of a bigger business. But again, if you're a solo person or a very small business, probably something a little bit more targeted would be better, because you'd get a better quality. You'd get less volume, but you would get a better quality.
Interesting. That leads on to the next question. Is that your question, Jonathan, about the last one?
The tools.
Yeah.
Don't know. Yeah, let's go with mine anyway, and then we'll see if that's the same one we're talking about. So it kind of leads off from, you mentioned that Google and Facebook have got this kind of built in, but I just wondered if there's any other tools that you could suggest. If you want to implement A/B testing on your website, for example.
Yeah, having Google Analytics installed will allow you to look at how people behave on your website. I think if you're looking to do something where you want people to take an action, and that action doesn't always need to be filling in the form. You can, through Google Analytics, for instance, you can create what they call conversions. So that conversion could be when someone clicks to buy now, it's a purchase, which is obviously a great conversion to have. But another conversion, yes, downloading that guide, filling in the contact form. Another conversion can be viewing a key page on your website, with something that you believe is worth people visiting. You can do it where you track a conversion when people have gone a certain percentage down the page. So they've consumed that information rather than just landed on a page and potentially not read anything and gone. We use that conversion quite a lot when we're not doing more lead generation based things, when we're pushing kind of more content driven things. We want to know that the channels that have been sending these people, which channel is sending people that actually consume the content. So your Google Analytics does have a ton of things in it. It can be a bit of a rabbit hole. So again, you can go onto YouTube and put in a very specific question. How can I do this in Google Analytics? Rather than just trying to, again, go deep on something rather than go wide. So Google Analytics is a really good tool. There's a number of things you can search, what are called heat mapping tools. So something, a big popular one that offers a free tier is Hotjar. And what you can do with that is it shows heat maps for where people have been on your website. So for instance, you can see if people were clicking on something and it wasn't actually something that was clickable, you know what, on my website, that's a little bit misleading. I need to look at that because maybe it looks like a button. Don't underline your text on a website because people always think that's a link. So again, you could be creating a little bit of frustration for people by having misleading things. I think as well within Google Analytics, you can see if you've got a search facility on your site, you can see what people have been searching for. If you go and look at that and find there are certain things a lot of people are searching for, well, maybe that needs to be put somewhere more prominent or in the navigation so people don't have to search for it. And then again, when you're running paid advertising, you know, you see all the results within these platforms. You know, this is why digital is a great thing, because you can see exactly what's been spent, exactly how many impressions, clicks, and then if you set your tracking up through something like Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager and put the Facebook pixel on and things like that, you can see which people have performed the action that you're paying to get them there to do, and the ones who aren't. So you can start to make improvements on that the next time you run something. So there's a ton of things, but again, if you search specifically for what it is you want to do, you know, A/B testing on its own, you'll get all sorts of things. But if you say, I want to A/B test visitors to my website, or I want to A/B test my Facebook ads, you'll get much more of a specific kind of tools and things in the results. Or again, pop that into YouTube. You know, you'll get some much more specific results that will help you more than the more kind of broad search.
Okay.
Interesting.
That's brilliant. There's a lot of tips there.
Yeah, I do look into Google Analytics, but I find it such a confusing place. Even like the UI, the usage of it just isn't very intuitive to me anyway. It's a bit
if only there was like an expert that you could hire, Andy.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, this is back to budgets, isn't it? This is back to budgets. If you're a one-man band and you've not got the budgets, then you've got to fudge it yourself, really, haven't you? You've got to delve in and start pressing buttons and hoping things work.
Well, I would say again with regards to that, if put it into YouTube, put it in, you know, what do you want to see? Because what you can do in Google Analytics is you can save certain sort of dashboards and things like that. So, you know, because again, there's so much information in there. You know, I'm not a Google Analytics expert. You know, we work on Google Ads as our big thing. It's something slightly different. But if, you know, there are certain things that I want to see, so I have some saved views on there. So I don't have to try and remember my way through all of this navigation here and all that.
No.
You know, you can style these things to show you the things that are important to you. So again, if you go into YouTube, how do I get Google Analytics to show me how long people have spent on page? Or go into there and put how do I set up tracking on a sign up page? You know, again, you have to kind of be very, very specific. You can then go and save those views, bookmark those views, and just get straight back to the thing that's valuable for you. Because again, there's probably 90% of stuff on there that I don't touch, and you know, what do we need? We don't need to bother ourselves with trying to fumble our way through that all the time. Let's just get straight to the thing that answers the thing that we want. That would be my advice on that one.
Question from Andrew: what percentage of people using search click on an ad? Is this trend changing?
Yes, that's quite an interesting question. I won't try and tell you that I know the stat off the top of my head. One very interesting stat that did go and do the rounds last year was that a huge percentage of the searches on Google resulted in no clicks. And this is as a result of Google now trying to pull in so much information to their search results. You know, like the questions bit, for instance, when you ask a question, you might see an ad, but then you'll see things that you can actually tap and they create a drop down. So for instance, those will answer questions without people needing to go off to a website. Google are in a bit of a quandary because they're pulling that information from other people's websites that people aren't then getting to get those people to their websites and interact with. And also things like the Google My Business thing. So the thing that you see on the right-hand side when you do a search on your desktop, it has things like opening hours. It has the contact number. It has the Google Maps link and things like that. So again, if your search is, what's the number for Bob's Taxis, you don't actually have to click Bob's Taxis website to go there to get the number. It shows up within the search results. So quite a lot of search results don't result in a click because, again, the answers are generally presented to a lot of questions. With regards to who clicks on ads, it's quite funny because everybody you speak to tells you, I never click an ad. But we serve over £500,000 a month of paid search ads on Google. Lots of people click those ads. It's important when you're doing paid search to be in that sort of top area. But the good thing is you can do it without having to pay more than other people when you, again, get really specific. Yeah, it's and on mobile as well, everybody clicks the ads on mobile because they dominate most of the screen. And really interestingly, I don't know whether anyone wants to know this or not, but a real interesting fact about there's a big debate about whether you should pay for ads for your brand name. So do Apple pay for an ad when someone searches for Apple, even though their website is going to appear at the top anyway because it's Apple? But Apple do pay for ads, and they pay for ads because they can control the exact messaging that you can't always do with an organic result. And also, if Samsung and Huawei advertise against the Apple brand, potentially Apple's actual organic search result gets pushed down the results quite a lot, and that can be, people are still probably going to go to Apple anyway, but certainly in other industries, paying to be in those ads is really important. And if you're paying for your brand, you generally can get those for pennies compared to normal unbranded searches. So sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there.
No, that's sounds like there's a secret war going on the search engines in between everyone trying to get on the top spot with their keywords and brand names and what they're offering and stuff. So seems like an ongoing challenge.
Well, there was a really interesting study from Google quite recently where they put up they ran simulated tests where they probably will have had audiences clicking certain ads that they like the look of, etc. And they were kind of saying, just showing up in the search results, even if you show up with this, nothing special about your offer or anything, you will get a percentage of the people who are going to click that, out of those top 4 ads, you'll get a percentage just by showing up. Then when they said, when your ad shows up and you then look at, adding, a bit more value and things like that, your percentage goes up quite a lot when it comes to things like competitor bidding. So it's, I mean, again, there'll be tons of studies and things probably contradicting that as again, we've been talking about. That's the whole point on this sort of presentation I wanted to give tonight. There's a lot of contrasting information out there. So the most important thing is to test it yourself and see how the results work for you, for your business. Look at all the results for everybody else and look at, like I say, best practices from big competitors and things like that, and then apply things and test things yourself.
Have you got any marketing no-nos? Strictly things that you would say people shouldn't be doing and probably still are or think about doing? Or have you come across any that weird kind of setups that you think was dodgy?
I think the difficulty is certainly for small business and medium and larger businesses is that in the industry that I work in, there are a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing very well when it comes to things in a lot more detail. And unfortunately, I speak to people quite regularly that have had bad experiences. So it's a really tricky one. But my thing would be don't similarly to when you sell your product and your service, don't promise something that you can't deliver. If you're going to pay for advertising, you're going to, especially when it's a click, for an online gambling thing or a debt recovery type thing, they can cost £20-30 for a click, for someone to click that ad and go to that website. Don't pay to send someone somewhere and then not give them the answer or the solution that they're looking for, because you're just going to waste your money. So that would probably be the big no for me, would be, don't pay to send someone to do something that you can't genuinely help them or solve their problem with your product or your service.
And what would you say is the average time that people can start to see results if they've started to do the marketing straight away? Because there's a lot of, we've mentioned it before, when people have a new website done, they immediately think next day they're going to be number one on Google, flooding with work. And we know from the facts, and it never happens unless they chuck thousands of pounds at it. So equally with marketing on Facebook, like my friend of mine, he's doing online selling of prints, photo prints,
right?
And he's doing the online advertising, but he's not seeing the results. So he's borderline giving up. He's like, it's not working. What's the point?
Yeah.
So what's the sort of menial length that people should be doing their advertising from day one, from launch, do you reckon, before they start seeing results?
How long is a piece of string is the question.
I suppose so,
It's tricky, but I think the most important thing there would be, for instance, again, not knowing anything about it, but if the person doing these prints just focused on these prints that are in one subject, whether it be pictures of dogs. They've got 3 different pictures of dogs. They've got lots of animal prints, but they've got these 3 ones of dogs. Target dog enthusiasts, dog lovers, people who follow things that are, not necessarily just dog food, but people that follow things that are perhaps I remember, unfortunately, I don't have my dog anymore, but when we did, we used to get her a monthly subscription thing, because it was more specialist food and things like that. So perhaps people that show a little bit more signal than just being a pet owner, that they are a dog lover, and target dog lovers with your dog imagery, and but not just dog lovers who shop online, through targeting, dog lovers who are into other perhaps higher end products as well, iPhones, Mercedes, Gucci, etc., because you're getting that audience whittled down to a higher end, with things that aren't related to that product, but give signals that they are perhaps in a higher market, if you like. So that would be, in that particular scenario, something to try. With regards to time, again, the wider you go, if you just advertise pictures to everybody, it's too wide, it's too broad, it will take far too long. But if you did that with the dog side of things, you could probably then start to say, okay, that didn't work. Okay, what if we take this sort of audience targeting out and try this one? You could do things until you got that right. And then when you've got that right, you apply the same things to the cats, but just take the dog stuff out and put the cat stuff in, and so on and so on.
It's back to the targeting, specific, narrow your field.
Definitely. With some, when it comes to social media advertising, people are not searching for those dog pictures. They're online looking at they're looking at dog videos, or engaging with whatever it might be, but they're not searching. Like when people are on Google and are doing a search, they want that answer straight away. So what you've got to do is you've got to be laser focused with the targeting when it comes to social media advertising, to to really pique the interest of people. And what you've got to do as well is you've got to show up more than once. Just because I didn't engage with that dog picture today, I might have been just scrolling through my phone still at the bus stop. I couldn't really look so much, or my boss walked in and caught me on Facebook, so I had to turn it off quickly. But keep showing it to me at different times, 3 or 4 or 5 times, then maybe I engage with it. So
that makes sense. Does
Yeah.
make sense. I think people probably get a bit too afraid of being too in your face, like the pizza ovens and the mattresses. Once you bought them, it's literally daily. You see adverts for them. You're thinking, I've already bought it. Leave me alone.
Yeah. There's obviously that fine line, isn't there? Is that
Yeah. It seems like a
There
balancing
is,
act, doesn't it?
and the good thing is generally on most platforms you can set kind of limits, as into for instance, only show this ad 5 times a day, or 2 times a day, or 50 times a day, whatever it might be. You can generally set things like limits, and also when you target these audiences, there's different types of audiences, and by that what I mean is the group that Facebook puts you into to be someone who is a dog lover, or a group that Facebook then put you into, someone who is what's called in market for buying dog products, is a very different thing. So, and we do the same on paid search as well. So for instance, if you go on Google and search funny videos of dogs, you're interested in dogs. If you go on Google and search how much is pet insurance, how much does it cost for a pedigree dog, how much is food monthly for a pedigree chihuahua, you then exhibit more signals than just being interested. You exhibit what they call in-market behavior. So you can then target people who have got what's more of the interest, or people that might be more in market, depending what it is that you're trying to sell. And you can do similar things with Facebook targeting as well. You get what's called affinity audiences, which have a general broad interest, and then you get more in market that show more signals than people that have just got a passing interest.
Interesting.
But again, there's so many aspects. It could kind of go on and on and on. But it's kind of like I say, this is why it's really important on a smaller scale to go deep, don't go wide, because it's so difficult to cover every base with every channel, with every type of campaign and things. Is just too much. So pick, like I said, in that scenario of the art prints, whether they do dogs or what, I don't know, but whatever it might be, find one theme, and then you could really focus in on people that are interested in that theme, interested in art, make online purchases, have other higher end interests that exhibit people with money, that would be a really good thing to try.
Oh, sounds good. I guess people just don't think that. That's the problem. It's like I say, they want the website done. It's launched, instant overnight success. We're rich. Thank you very much. Bye bye, everyone. And it's not always the case. It doesn't work like that. But I guess it kind of helps if they sit down and learn stuff. Like you say, there's online resources to learn stuff. Andrew Good says that Google have a one-on-one mentoring scheme that's free, apparently.
I mean, what all of the platforms do, the likes of Google, Facebook, etc., they have a ton of resources to get people on board, and they're very good. They are a little bit self-serving, because obviously the easier and better they can make it, the more people go to them to advertise. So it is important sometimes to take some of those things with a pinch of salt, because again, they serve them. However, there is, YouTube is the resource that you can go and find things. But again, if you are a small business owner, you've only got so much time you can spend on learning new things. And otherwise, because again, I'm not being funny. I work in the industry. I've worked in the industry for, off the top of my head, maybe 12, 13 years. Because it changes and adapts so much, there's always things to learn. There's always different things going on. And then everything you do, there are 100 other people out there doing their things to compete against you as well. So it's difficult. But again, if you go and find one subject and go deep on that one subject, a similar approach to the things that you learn, rather than trying to cover everything, because generally people that tell you they can do all of these things, they can do them, but you know, we can all go on YouTube and learn how to change our car battery, but we can't change a Formula One racing car's tires in 9 seconds and get it performing aerodynamically this and power to thrust weight ratio that. You know, that's what specialists do. So
I'll give it a go. Probably won't work.
I'm brilliant around the
saying as
go-kart track.
yeah, I can do a fast lap on a go-kart. Yeah, no trouble. Are you saying then as well just to focus on one social media platform, or do you say like be specific but target the one that's probably most relevant to your audience?
I think if you were going to look at, certainly if you're going to look at investing time and money, start with one, and kind of go into one about, again, you know, what is that you want to get from that? Are you directly looking to sell? Because it's not an easy place to directly sell on if you're doing nothing else but trying to sell to people, because, you know, it then becomes a very transactional kind of thing. You know, social media is used for a lot of different things than just direct selling. You know, tone of voice, kind of, you know, the ethics behind a business, the humor, the personality, the people behind the scenes. You know, the more you can show people all these different things, the more likely when you come to try and sell to them, they will then sell to you. They will then buy from you, because people buy from people. You know, that's no secret. So if you were going to look into, like I'm starting right now, what do I want to do with social media? I just want to sell products. Then go and learn about, you know, Facebook shops, Facebook commerce campaigns, you know, things about Facebook and selling, you know, and look into that subject, because there'd be no point in looking at organic reach of posts and how to build followers and all that if what you wanted to do was sell your stuff on Facebook. So that would be, you know, probably more better advice, I think, than just focusing on one platform. Would be focusing on one kind of action, you know, one purpose. So you could do the same on Twitter. You could learn about e-commerce things on Twitter and e-commerce things on Facebook, and that would be more in your interest than learning about all aspects of Facebook, for instance.
Let's see. I suppose you've got to have an understanding as well of where likely your audience will be. Whether it's, I guess the audience on Twitter and Facebook are different. Would you say they're?
Yeah, I think within reason. I think there's I mean, I did a few sort of seminars with our company with someone from the social media team, and his kind of line that he always started with was Facebook is for blank people, and it was Facebook is for dead people or old people, because basically it was like, oh, nobody young goes on Facebook was the argument. Whereas when you then look at the statistics from Facebook, there are millions of people under the age of 21 on Facebook. There are also so many people that signed up for Facebook when they were not at the minimum age for Facebook, that they put a different date of birth in, that now those people are still quite young. When you look at the actual demographics of Facebook users, and this is regular Facebook users, there are millions of young people who use Facebook. Yes, places like TikTok are a place where more young people will go nowadays and things like that, but you can't discount Facebook as a platform for any audience because it is just so big. But yeah, I think you know, Twitter's a bit of a different kettle of fish. We haven't done very much with Twitter. We haven't found much success for kind of advertising on Twitter. It is a different kind of platform. Ironically, we didn't think we'd do so well with I mean, we work in like finance. We didn't think we'd do very well on Instagram, but we found Instagram to work really well for some finance adverts, because hardly nobody advertises finance products on Instagram. So
wow.
Again, test is always the thing. You know, if I say, you know, you can't sell on Twitter, you know, I wouldn't say that. I'd say the things we've done haven't worked particularly well on Twitter, but somebody else may have something that does work there. But you have to test. You can again look at best practices in your industry, in your sort of field, and then apply what you get from those into your campaigns. You know, if things haven't worked, why didn't they work? But I think it's really, really vital that you have to test things yourself. Definitely, yeah.
Find that niche.
Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Sorry for throwing them questions at you. Just get coming to me. Might as well keep asking while you're on.
No, it's cool. I mean, listen,
sure.
I can waffle about this sort of thing forever. So, like I said, there's so much to cover.
Yeah, it is a minefield when you think that we've come from the old days of make a leaflet, direct mail through the door, through the post box, job done, advertising the yellow pages. That's it. That's as far as you get. I mean, it's now got a lot more complex and a lot more in your face.
So much better informed, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, ironically, the thing is, though, is if you put something through someone's door now, they will read that. They're probably more likely to read things that go through their door than something that goes in their email inbox. And there are ways that those things can be tracked, things like QR codes and trackable phone numbers and various sorts of things. But so a
bit of a retro revival. Is it like vinyl?
Yeah, I think tactile. You can get a lot more information. You can get a lot more artistic and creative with those things because again, on digital, you've got seconds. I saw a really funny. I say really funny. That shows the industry I work in. A funny graphic that shows somebody at the till of a shop, and someone stood there with a trolley saying, "Right, I'm off. I've been waiting 2 seconds," and that's like. Nobody leaves the shop when they've been waiting 2 seconds. But if your web page doesn't open for 2 or 3 seconds, people leave and go somewhere else. So when we're talking about, you know what, online's got so many advantages over our poor high street. You know, people spend ages queuing up in the high. Look how many people are queuing up at petrol stations. Oh my God, you know, people don't wait around like that for websites. You know.
No, that's what I was saying about people expecting instant results because we are in this society of they want stuff now. It has to happen now, and it's immediate, isn't it? It's very much push a button, instant success, and it can't always be done that.
Well, I mean, I suppose your website is one spoke in a wheel, isn't it? It's if we're talking when we're talking about AI, and then AI allowing the humans to work more on strategy and planning, anyone again, you can go on YouTube and learn how to build a website or go on to Wix and build a website. Anyone can put a website of some sort together, but what is the point in that? How did that fit into the strategy? What were you going to do with that tool once you got it? That's the thing. How are you going to get traffic there? What did you want the traffic to do when it landed on there? What are you doing after that traffic contacts you? And I mean, I
don't think people still think that though. I think that's it. I think that they get the mindset of a website, job done. That's all I need. It's only afterwards they start to think about all the nitty gritty that goes in with it.
Well, yeah, you see a Squarespace advert or a Wix advert, and it's like, get your website, bang, and all of a sudden this person's like, driving in their Ferrari and it's all good, and it's like, oh yeah,
that's how it works, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah. My Ferrari hasn't been delivered yet. I'm still waiting.
Mine too. Brilliant. Well, thank you for that, Des. I don't think we've got any more questions.
No, I think we've covered everything now.
By all means, if you do have any questions, do email Des directly. By all means, we'll share. Well, obviously this is going on to YouTube, so you can see your details at the end of it.
I was going to say, have we got your contact details to hand? I don't know.
But they're on the QR code on this.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn on that QR code. I'm not on Twitter very much, but at Des Calton, just my name. It's reach out. Optimize is spelt a bit strange, so whether you be able to find that online or not, but optimize.co.uk. But yeah, it's a huge subject, and you can't no one person can cover it. I don't cover it all. I run the business. I don't do all of every single platform we have. We're on off the top of my head 10, 12, 13 different platforms, down to things like Quora. We run audio ads on Spotify, which is a really cool platform. Kind of brings the best of radio advertising, but with digital targeting. Brilliant platform. Up to sort of Google, YouTube, Facebook, Bing ads, and we do something called native advertising, which is, you probably see those really dodgy ads on on the newspaper website that always say near you, I don't know, millions of cars for sale. And that's like, hang on a minute, I live in a little village. What on earth? Where on earth are all these cars for sale? All these weird and wonderful ones. But that can be another way of actually sharing really good actual content, because most of that stuff is junk. So if you put something good into those things, that'll stand out. But yeah, we're on so many different things that, you know, no one person can master all of those things. One person can book you some ads, and one person can get you going on certain things. But again, going back to the kind of Formula One racing car analogy, you know, if you want the peak performance, you know, you really, you know, that's why there's one guy that works on the front wing angle for downforce, and you know the tire pressure, and you know there's one guy that works out, one person who works out the amount of fuel to weight to ratios and all that kind of thing. You know, you get specialists in those areas that really go deep, not wide.
It's a jack of all trades, master of none scenario, isn't it? Where you try to overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a small business, you have to be a bit of a jack of all trades with certain types of things. But you
know your limits at least. I wouldn't sort of push myself beyond the comfort zone and promise that I could write a new symphony for a video promo or anything like that. But at least the help's out there, and there's other specialists in the area you could always sort of latch on to help with little projects without being that big company that's got more under one roof.
That's it. You know, go and look at what that big company's doing and what they've invested in. Then go and look at and research, you know, very specific. The more specific you research something, the better answers you'll get. You know, how do I market my business is you know, endless. But, you know, how can I reach more people who spend money online on TikTok? You'll get a much more, you know, you'll get much better answers from things like that. Is again going back to if you're going to ask your customers things, how do you phrase a question? I think is really, really important when you're looking into these things as a small business owner in particular.
Put yourself in their shoes of what they're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, really be as specific as possible and laser target on that thing. You know, smash that one, get that one done and won and everything, and then move on to the next thing and do the same, you know, rinse and repeat kind of approach. Because you're better to, I think, you know, knock it out the park on 3, 4, 5 things than you are do a bit of 25 things.
Yeah.
You know?
So are we saying that Zuckerberg's line of fast and break things is a wise decision? Would you say it's
it worked for him?
Bad advice.
It worked for him.
I suppose it did.
I think that the general answer is there is no yes and no. This is why, again, the sort of idea that I get all philosophical. I use it in life. You know, everything is balance. I don't do yoga or anything. I don't see it like that. But everything in life is balance. You know, we have to plan for today. We have to enjoy the now, but we have to plan for the future. You know, we want to eat healthy, but we want to eat things that taste nice as well. You know, we want to do exercise, but we also want to have downtime and chill and stuff like that. You know, there's no, you know, and it's the same with everything. It's like I say, getting very philosophical.
That's good.
But
very deep.
I would say some things work fast and break things is
definitely
good in a way, but there are dangers of it going wrong.
Exactly.
There's a lot of the gaming companies at the minute. They're working fast to get the games launched, but when they're launched, they're broken, and then they get a whole backlash of bugs and problems, and it's not working. It really ruins their reputation. So I guess it depends on what you're doing before you jump on that fast and break things.
Yeah. Did any of you guys see the Ryan Reynolds movie, Free Guy, the recent movie? Where he's in the movie. Yeah. So, you know, when dude lands in and goes catchphrase, you know, because they hadn't finished the coding for him. If you haven't watched that film, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But the point, I suppose, in gaming, in the old days, when you used to get the disc that the game was on, it had to be right. Whereas
That
now,
was it,
patches, updates, you know,
Yeah.
and enhancements, you know,
It's
it's kind of
launch
built.
it fast as it is, and then patch it
Yeah.
afterwards quickly.
Yeah.
But by that point, people have been put off because there's bugs and other things
Yep.
going wrong. I mean, in a way, it's bad marketing for them. It's not doing them any favors, but
Yeah,
they're clearly
yeah,
still doing it
it's-
because there's been several launches that have gone wrong
Yep.
when they fixed them later with a patch.
Yeah, and probably people still ate it up. You know, as soon as things were, you know, again, if you're in that position when you're releasing something, you know, again, you know, Apple, you know, for instance, release an iPhone and you know it needs an update within whatever, you know, it's always the way. But you know, again, I suppose when you've got such a loyal following, you can get away with that. But again, that's about the balance. You need to be careful how much you keep doing that, because otherwise you start to test that loyalty. So again, it's making that calculation between how much do we benefit by getting this out now versus what are the risks that we'd lose, and you make that calculation and then you go ahead with what you go ahead with.
Especially if they're chucking lots of money at it, because in a sense they're buying a broken thing, broken product, broken website, broken whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
take.
definitely.
Anyway, we'll let you go now. Thank you very much. You've nearly done up our perfect timing. 10 minutes to go. Thank you for your time.
No,
thanks very much.
One.
It's been really cool, and I appreciate. You know, the best thing is to get asked questions afterwards, because there's nothing worse than anyone got any questions, and it's like, but yeah, you know, I really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Do feel free to pop into a DPiP when we are actually back in a coffee shop, being a bit more 3D environment, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Yeah, look forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you all. Have we got any more announcements to make to the watchers?
Not really. I was thinking that we're probably kind of due to start thinking about the whether we do like an end of year party, but it's probably a bit too soon to announce anything.
Don't mention the C word. Christmas word. No one's doing Christmas this early. It's too early for that. Yeah.
Well, it's just whether we need to pre-book turkeys now, don't we?
Will it be an end of year online Zoom party, or you?
I think if we can try and do a safe in-person 3D
3D meet and greet.
We'll try for a 3D in person, but if not, we'll do a Zoom something or other. And
you'll all have to sit at home with your Christmas jumpers on.
We'll have to send some like party hats out or something, and and some crackers.
We'll have a think then. We'll plan it. See.
Obviously, if anyone's got any ideas, wants to kind of chip in, then let us know.
Perfect. Well, thanks all for coming. I guess we'll end it there.
Let's wrap up.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Big thanks to Dan behind the scenes, putting all the buttons and pushing the pulling cords. Yeah, pizza. All the
Dan's got his pizza order.
Yeah, he's buying a pizza oven now. Definitely shopping around. Big thanks for everyone watching. Don't forget to share your love with our lovely sponsors. We Are Marmalade, City Fibre, Compare the Market, and hosted by 20i. And of course, Two Big Orange Hearts, who do a great job of hosting our online presence. And we'll see you next time. In the meantime, have a busy week, month, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See you later.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.